الحمد لله رب العالمين نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلن تجد له وليا مرشدا ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله أرسل الله تعالى بالحق بشيرا ونذيرا داعيا إلى الله بإذنه وسراجا منيرا فأما بعد فقال تعالى يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. My dear brothers, sisters, elders, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you and guide you and protect you from all harm, that which you know and that which you don't know. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always be with you and for you wherever you are. We are on the fourth of the series of lectures on challenges and solutions, challenges of 2021 and beyond, and inshallah some solutions for that. And today I want to talk to you about one of the greatest of our challenges, which, to make matters worse, for the most part, is not understood or recognized. And that is global warming and climate change, and as a result of that, water shortage. The problem with global warming and climate change is the same problem that we have with the akhirah. It seems to be a concept that we know to be true, but we cannot see any signs of it. And we don't know how it relates to our lives on a daily basis. In both the cases of global warming as well as the akhirah, if we were asked, and I'm speaking for myself, if we were asked to show which actions in our lives demonstrate our faith in either global warming or the akhirah, I am not sure what we would be able to point to. This is simply not good enough, because reality is not dependent on belief for its existence. Reality stands by itself and it bites very hard. There are two major signs of climate change that we have seen since 2020. The catastrophic wildfires of Australia and later in California. In Australia, it is said that 1 billion animals perished. That, of course, doesn't include insects and small reptiles and others which would have been totally burnt up. And so the real number is actually much higher. The second sign is that water is being traded on the futures market on the California Stock Exchange, like gold and oil. Now, if that is not enough to wake us up, then seriously, I don't know what can be. Now, looking ahead, global warming and work on reducing carbon emissions will also shift focus away from oil and coal and natural gas and nuclear power generation to hydrogen, solar, wind, wave, and hydro electricity for power generation, for transportation, for manufacture, and so on. Economies which became wealthy thanks to oil and coal and fossil fuels will experience major upheaval in their income streams when these income streams dry up. This will, of course, reflect on infrastructure, on maintenance, and on job opportunities. They say that the wars of the future will be fought over water, not over oil, as has been in the past. The EcoWatch report predicts that by the year 2064, we are in 2021, we're talking about 2064, like 42, 43 years ahead. That's it. The Amazonian rainforest will have disappeared completely. I quote from the report, The best way to think of the forest ecosystem is that it's a pump. The forest recycles moisture, which supports regional rainfall. If you continue to destroy the forest, the rainfall amount drops and eventually you wreck the pump. As the forest transforms into a grassland and, of course, later on into a desert, all the benefits of the massive ecosystem will also disappear, and a multi-dimensional catastrophe will ensue. Primarily, water scarcity will evaporate. Water security will evaporate for over 35 million people living in that region. And finally, and perhaps most alarmingly, the forest could progressively lose its ability to store the world's excess carbon, which helps to regulate the climate and planetary temperature. In fact, sometimes scientists predict that the world's largest forest will flip from being a carbon sink to becoming a carbon source by around 2035, and that is 15 years down the road, or 14 years. Global warming occurs when carbon dioxide and other air pollutants, which are called greenhouse gases, collect in the atmosphere and absorb sunlight and solar radiation that have bounced off the Earth's surface. Now, normally this radiation would escape into space, but these pollutants, which can last from years to centuries in the atmosphere, they trap the heat and cause the planet to get hotter. And that's why it's called the greenhouse effect. Scientists agree that the Earth's rising temperatures are fueling longer and hotter heat waves, more frequent droughts, heavier rainfall, and more powerful hurricanes. In 2015, for example, scientists said that an ongoing drought in California, the state's worst water shortage in 1200 years, had been intensified by 15 to 20% by global warming. Forests, farms, and cities will face troublesome new pests, heat waves, heavy downpours, and increased flooding. All these factors will damage or destroy agriculture and fisheries. Allergies, asthma, and infectious disease outbreaks will become more common due to increased growth of pollen-producing ragweed, higher levels of air pollution, and the spread of conditions favorable to pathogens and mosquitoes. Water is an amazing and literally an out-of-this-world substance. When the earth was forming, water came to the earth in the form of a storm. The same water came to Mars and Venus, but didn't stay. On Earth, thanks to its distance from the sun, thanks to the Earth's magnetic field, which protects us from solar flares, and thanks to our own thick atmosphere, water stayed and remained in its three states, which is liquid, solid, and gas. It has properties totally unlike those of any other liquid. Water expands on solidification. It's a universal solvent. It doesn't freeze solid when it's in a large body. It changes state from liquid to gas and back to liquid, and in the process releases its salts and becomes consumable by humans and animals. Trees grow because of water. Our bodies are 70% water, and our digestive, circulatory, and other body functions work because of water. Practically all life exists and is sustained because of water. Where did this water come from? Why? How much? And remember, the water that came here a few billion years ago is still here. That is the ancient, critical, incredibly complex blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we pollute and waste without a thought. This is also the meaning of recognizing the signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His creation, which you cannot do without using the knowledge that He sent us, called science. Let us treat science with the importance it deserves. Turn off taps and showers and save water. Plant wildflowers instead of lawns. Plant vegetables. Recycle all wastewater in your home and in public buildings. Make vermicompost and use hydroponics. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said about water, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أولم يرى الذين كفروا أن السماوات والأرض كانتا رتقا ففتقناهما وجعلنا من الماء كل شيء حي أفلا يؤمنون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said in Surah Al-Anbiya, which means, have not those who disbelieve known that the heavens and the earth were joined together as one united piece, then we parted them. And we have made from water every living thing. Will they not then believe? About 4.5 billion years ago, there was another planet called Theia, about the same size as the Earth, which was on an intersecting orbit with us. And we met. The collision must have been an awesome sight to witness. The result was that Theia's iron core sank into the young Earth's core, and most of Theia's mantle accreted onto the Earth's mantle. This collision also changed the tilt of the Earth on its axis to 23.5 degrees, which gives us our seasons. Exact tilt to half a degree, not more, not less. Without this tilt, we would have had scorching heat while our side of the planet faced the sun, and then freezing cold when we faced away from the sun. When we look at the fall colors in this part of the world, of the oaks and aspens and maples and sumacs and other trees, here in Western Mass, something that people from all over the world come to see and marvel. They come to see and marvel at the glorious shades of yellows and oranges and pinks and reds. Let us remember that all these are because the earth is tilted on its axis at an angle of 23.5 degrees. The tilt gives us our seasons with their temperature differences. Without it, no summer and no winter. Imagine our earth without water. No oceans, no lakes or rivers, no rainfall, no moon, no vegetation, no life. Then look around yourself today. During the day, and look at the full moon in the night. Breathe the air. Drink from clean, unpolluted streams. Sail on the ocean. Run your hand along the polished golden wood of the gunwale and reflect on the steel hull of your boat. Then let's remind ourselves that none of this would have happened without the storm and the collision that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent. No wood, no iron, and no water to sail it on. Today, as we live our lives, let us reflect on the storms and collisions that we see or experience in our lives and remind ourselves to look beyond them to the hand of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala jalla jalaluhu, in which there is only khair, blessing. When we do that, it becomes the strength we need to face life and its trials, knowing that the one who sent the trial will also send the solution. Knowing that the one who sent the trial did it for a reason, to teach us something that can only benefit us and which will be the means of drawing closer to Him. That is the only closeness that matters, because it is the only one which lasts throughout our existence and which doesn't end with our death. It is closeness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which is our help and protection in this life and the means of deliverance when we meet Him. He reminded us about this to comfort us and to help us and to give us hope and courage. And He said, وَعَسَىٰ أَن تَكْرَهُوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ وَعَسَىٰ أَن تُحِبُّوا شَيْئًا وَهُوَ شَرٌّ لَكُمْ وَاللَّهُ يَعْلَمُ وَأَنْتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. He said in Surah Al-Baqarah, and it may be that you dislike something that is good for you, and that you like something which is bad for you. And Allah knows, and you do not know. Can global warming be halted? Can we turn the clock back? In theory, the answer is yes. But in practice, it remains to be seen what our leaders do. A lot of initiatives need international agreements and collaboration and enforcement. Whether there is the political will to do it remains to be seen. The effects of global warming are potentially catastrophic. And once we go over the edge, irreversible. It's a case of the Seneca cliff. Takes a long time to get to the top, but the descent is rapid. We humans were given resources by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the knowledge to use them in positive, constructive ways. But we chose to follow our greed and refused to recognize that we were destroying our own home in our scramble to make as much money as possible, irrespective of the cost. Cost there is. Believe you me, it's not free. And when payment time comes, we will pay in ways that are very painful. New diseases and pathogens, droughts, especially violent storms, flooding of coastal areas, destroying cities, are all among them. Ibn al-Jawzi rahmatullahi alayhi, he said that if this dunya was not a station of tests, it would not be filled with sickness and filth. If life was not about hardship, then the prophets and the pious would have lived the most comfortable of lives. But no, Adam alayhi salam suffered test after test until he left the dunya. Nuh alayhi salam wept and cried for 300 years. Ibrahim alayhi salam was thrown into a pit of fire and later told to slaughter his son. Yaqub alayhi salam cried until he became blind. Musa alayhi salam challenged Fir'aun and was tested by his people. Isa alayhi salam had no provision except the morsels that his disciples provided him with. And Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam met poverty with patience. His uncle, one of the most beloved relatives to him, was slain and mutilated, and his people disbelieved in him. The list of prophets and pious goes on and on. They were all tested severely, yet they all thanked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now, brothers and sisters, I remind myself and you, whatever happens to us happens because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose it for us. To be pleased with it is called rida bil qada. To be pleased with the choice of Allah. And this is an article of our faith. One of the pious predecessors, one of the Salafus Salihin, he said, if I get something, if I make dua, and if I get what I asked for, I am very happy. But he said, if I make dua and I do not get what I asked for, but I get something else, I am 10 times as happy. So the people asked him, they said, what kind of a statement is this? If you get something you ask for, you are happy, but if you don't get it, you are 10 times as happy. Or if you get something other than what you asked for, you are 10 times as happy. How is that possible? He said, because when I get what I asked for, I got what I wanted. But when I get something else, or I do not get what I wanted, then I'm actually getting what my Rabb wants for me. And that's why that makes me 10 times as happy. Islam gives us the sight to see the reality behind the appearances. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us about His tests and the attitude of the mu'mineen towards them, where He said, وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِّنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا أَصَابَتْهُمْ مُصِيبَةٌ قَالُوا إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ أولئك عليهم صلوات من ربهم ورحمة وأولئك هم المهتدون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala Jalla Jalaluhu said, which means, and certainly we shall test you with something of fear and hunger and loss of wealth and loss of lives and the fruits of your labor. But give glad tidings to us sabirin, to the patient people. Who are they? Who, when afflicted with calamity, they say, truly to Allah we belong and truly to Him we shall return. They are those on whom are the salawat, that is the blessings from their Rabb, and they are those who will receive His mercy, and it is they who are the rightly guided ones. My brothers and sisters, what would we as believers say if we were asked what we are prepared to pay for Allah's mercy and blessings directly on us, and with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as our witness that we are rightly guided? What would you pay? That is the reward of sabr and shukr, patience and gratitude. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us sabirin wa shakirin. Now, what must we do to deal with challenges of climate change? Solutions. Number one, limit the use of fossil fuels by using cleaner energy. Support activism to fight climate change. Reduce your own carbon footprint. Use public transport or bike or walk instead of owning or driving your own car. Number two, limit the amount of meat you eat, because if cattle were a nation, they would be number 3 after China and America in greenhouse gas emissions, methane and carbon dioxide. Number 3, for young people deciding on career choices, choose AI, artificial intelligence, environmental sciences, ecology and conservation, forestry and wildlife service, astronomy, avionics, technology, engineering, physics, believe it or not, accounting, agriculture and water conservation technology. All are sunrise career choices today. In Abu Dhabi, they've set up a new university called Mohammed bin Zayed University for Artificial Intelligence. They are inviting people with good bachelor's degrees to apply for masters in science and PhDs in artificial engineering. No tuition fee, it's free, and they give you a stipend. Please apply. And finally, and most importantly, career choices: law, politics, banking, international law, environmental law, human rights law, Islamic banking, and politics. It is critical that if you want to initiate significant change, you must be in areas where that happens and where it can be influenced. Law is where legislation is designed and defined. Politicians table legislation and convert it into law. Lawyers, once again, interpret the law in courts, which reinforce it. Money is the lubricant that powers the whole system. We need in these places people who believe, are connected with Allah, and who are conscious of their accountability. We need people who are ethical, moral, and highly knowledgeable. Only such people can bring about changes to spread goodness all around without fear or favor, to benefit all those who live on the earth. It is not enough to sit around and complain or claim lack of understanding. It is critical to understand and learn how to influence the system to make it beneficial, especially for those who need support and protection. Remember, it takes 3 generations to create global change. We are already too late. We must change how we educate, what we teach, how we teach it, and who teaches it. We must invest time, energy, resources, and tears before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to try to create a world that will be a worthy legacy of our passing. Because to live is not merely to draw breath. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى الله على نبي الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين والحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.